already, and we'll see what's going to happen here. 4 spawning locations. All of you guys who do a lot of laddering should be very familiar with this map. Antigua Shipyards, one of the things I like about it is that third base. That third base really makes it feels very Metalopolis, I would say, to me, where it's a high ground third base that's just outside your front door, outside of your ramp, and then there is a second entrance into it with those destructible rocks, so it's not as well secure as, say, your natural expansion, but still, Zerg players can do a lot of macro on this map, and I really, as soon as I saw this map, I knew that it would become one of the more popular ones. I don't know if it quite overthrows the all-famous Metalopolis, but the game is now underway. Matron, take it away.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to have our 2 players here spawning on MLG and Tiga Shipyard. We're going to have Gowser spawning as the purple Zerg in the southern position, and then we're going to have vVv's Murder spawning as the teal Terran in the top position. A little alliteration there to start things out. And as you mentioned, Zerg's going to be able to macro very hard on this map, and I like this map as a Zerg player just because you're able to take a relatively quick third that's still close to your main and your natural. We see so many maps being added where Terran and Protoss are able to take that very fast natural with a nice wall off, and a lot of times Zerg is really left out to dry where they can't take a quick third that's relatively safe. It's a little bit farther than you're comfortable with early game, and Void Rays and Banshees and things like that can do a lot of damage to that third. But on this map, you've got the 3 bases sort of in a corner there, so both players definitely going to have big macro opportunities here.
Yeah, one of the things I am curious about though is, do you know how the spawning locations work on this map? Is it possible to say haven't like is it always gonna be a cross spawn? I'm not 100% sure. Do you know?
Yeah, I do not know what version or what changes MLG has made to this map. We do see that there's low ground supply depots, so we won't have any sort of bunker shenanigans or cannon play. I'm not sure if they force the cross positions or whether they allow the close by air positions. Again, there aren't any close by ground positions as it's sort of the map doesn't really have that going for it, so they definitely didn't take that out, but perhaps they did force the cross positions. Have to see what changes they made when MLG comes out with their announcements.
Yeah, most definitely, as we're going to see Gowser now walk in with this drone. The drone going to get off a little bit of harassment, but already another SCV bringing up the rear in order to push back this drone. The drone's not going to be able to get that much harassment any further. Perhaps Murder will be forced to do a little bit of micro, but now Murder does go for that earlier supply depot to finish off that wall in. Now, this is going to be curious as Murder is not going to be able to train up a Marine or perhaps delay his orbital command. We'll see what's going to happen here. It looks like he's just going to delay that first Marine in order to get that wall off.
And Gauser actually sent out a very early drone there before that second supply depot, which typically does get thrown up by the Terran just to deny any sort of extra scouting. They don't want the drone to get in there and see that gas. So Murder basically has his whole hand tipped here as he did get that gas, and Gauser definitely going to be expecting some sort of tech here. The factory has gone down. Gauser went for that around that 15 hatch, so he's going to be getting his pool up. Speed going to be a little bit late, has yet to add an extractor here, so we'll see how he deals with these possible Hellions as a reactor being added to the barracks.
Yeah, the reactor on the barracks most likely not going to be training of Marines, but swapping with that factory, as Matron mentioned. I'm still curious as we are not going into a second refinery for Murder, so Murder may be slowing down his tech, perhaps going to opt to go for a second command center, or just try to dump all of those minerals into those Hellions, as we mentioned earlier. He is sitting on a fair amount of gas, though, and it's just going to be curious as to whether or not Murder is going to open up and try to tech even further, go for that extra gas, or just try to keep his opponent honest and keep Gowser honest, making sure that he just doesn't continue to drone and force him to train up some army units.
I think the next building is going to be really telling for Murder, whether he goes with an expansion. It looks like he's ready to start building an expansion on the low ground. A lot of times we'll see Terran add maybe a second factory if they want to go for more one base factory play, or even a starport to get some drops going with those Hellions. But Murder will be starting that expansion on the low ground, so he feels good with the Hellions out. Map control goes to him, and the stream chat has informed us that Gowser is actually Gosu user. I guess he took the U from Gosu and the U from User, sort of combined them, smushed them together into a W. So we'll call him by his plain name Gosu User from now on. And right now he's actually quite ahead in supply, 44, now 45 to 35.
Yeah, a very, very nice advantage. You can see that the power of the Zerg being able to drone so heavily early on. So he's going to be able to get a very, very strong economic advantage already. We'll see how this is going to continue to work. We're going to see how this continues to work as the Hellions are now pushing along the backside. There are 3 queens there, though, so it's going to limit the amount of damage. But there is still going to be getting a spine crawler here to try to fend off. And I believe that the players are asking for a pause, or I believe the stream's asking for a pause, please. I'm currently only talking to the spectators. Matron, can you do that for me?
Yeah, it looks like we do have some problems with the stream. I'm not sure whether it's blinking or something going on. We'll see if we can get those resolved real quick.
All right, so why don't we just do a little bit of the state of the game right now? Gosu User currently running off of two bases. I believe he has a very strong economic advantage, 40 drones versus 24 SCVs, and I'm really, really happy how Gosu User is approaching his defense. He currently has 6 queens in plays, and one of the benefits of going for queens early on, besides getting a very strong creep highway, is the ability to save that larva. A lot of the times players will go for roaches, but every roach trained is a drone essentially lost for a Zerg player early on, and queens don't take up larva. So with 6 queens, he's going to be more than able to handle any sort of Hellion pressure. If he really wants to go for if he goes for 1 or perhaps even 2 spore crawlers, he'll also be able to handle that all annoying banshee pressure as well. So we'll see what goes down and whether or not Gosu User will be able to transition into the mid game, perhaps set up a 3rd expansion and also get somewhere into that magic 60 drone range, where then Zerg just infinitely takes off even more quickly.
60? I don't know about that. I like 80, 85, maybe on 4 or 5 bases. That's when they really get comfortable. But it was interesting, vVv Murder actually, instead of just getting out those initial 2 Hellions, then swapping back the factory over to the tech lab, which he had created with his barracks to start tank and marine production, he actually came out with a 4th, or a 3rd and 4th, and then a 5th and 6th Hellion. So he's got quite a few Hellions mid-map here. He's going to be able to control that creep, perhaps sniping a tumor or 2 if he sees them. So we are going to start up again here. Hopefully the stream issues have fixed themselves a little bit. And we do see that 12 drones coming out for Gosu User. So he is droning up like a mofo right now. He has yet to take his 3rd though. So we'll see he's going to be on full saturation on 2 bases, maybe even over saturation a little bit here.
Yeah, I don't expect Gosu User will try to take that 3rd just quite yet. He does have a very heavy drone saturation, but that also means he doesn't have that large of an army, and he doesn't really want to move out until he knows that he can easily defend that 3rd hatchery. He may make a hatchery now, but it's going to be quite some time before he actually transitions any of those or a heavy amount of drones over, as those Hellions have been knocking on that front door and been able to get a lot of damage. Hellions now trying to simply run up the ramp. The queens are trying to push them up and push them into the corner, and it looks like the drones are going to get torched a little bit here. So 6 drones without that blue flame tech, as the queens are just running rampant through. The drones are doing a very good split, minimizing the amount of splash damage, and these 6 queens, 5 queens, able to really handle these Hellions. I believe they're going to try to go back down to that low ground. There is going to be another queen in position. Down goes another Hellion, and I think Murder is in trouble.
Yeah, the Hellion nerf really being felt by Terran players. He's taken down 5, just 5 workers with those 6 Hellions. So Gosu User using all of those queens to defend there. Murder was able to get by the queens, but he just wasn't able to do a ton of damage in the main there like you would want to do. And as you mentioned, not a lot of army out for Gosu User. He just had the 6 queens, no lings, so he had no very fast units to try to chase down those Hellions. Luckily, he did not come away with too many losses there, and now comes out with his first 18 lings, as he's also working on 1-1. So he's going to be transitioning here into ling. I imagine he's going to be going for some sort of tier 2. It looks like he's got pathogen glands on the way as well. So Ling and Fester coming out for Gosu User, and we'll see how Murder's able to handle it.
Yeah, I think Gosu user has a definite easy advantage moving into the mid game now. Harvester count, income, almost double at this stage. I'm able to mine off of 4 gas as opposed to, I believe, only 1 gas for Murder. So Murder has been really heavily relying on mass Marines, and we'll see whether or not we're going to have any Banelings. But we are also going into the pathogen glands. Infestors did get a little bit nerfed with that fungal growth, I believe, reducing the damage from 36 down to 34 Marines. It still will only take 2 fungal growths in order to take down these Marines, but I'm very curious as to where exactly Murder is going with his army right now.
Yeah, it looks like he's maybe testing for a 4th, possibly. It looks like he has found an Overlord he will be taking down. And now he's making this push possibly to clean up some of these active creep tumors. And you see Ghost User has about 5 active tumors here, pushing this creep out to the center. And Murder is positioned as 1 siege tank. It is now 2 siege tanks. 1 is on the creep. And again, he's going to be trying to take down these destructible rocks and any of these creep tumors that he's able to find.
Yeah, right now Gosu user is really going to play defensively. If he's able to push back this attack, which he may be able to do with these 6 infestors, he's going to be in a very nice position. You can see 1 infestor, there's the fungal growth, hitting so many Marines right there, and that's exactly what you do not want to have a highly clumped group of Marines. 4 Marines have been taken down, and when those Marines try to come up that ramp, they're going to already be very soft, as we now have a very fast tech in the hive at the 12-minute mark in the game.
Yeah, I think Murder's in trouble here with this push. He's got all these very low Marines. He has no medevacs to heal them up. He does have stim and he does have combat shield, so the Marines are pretty beefy, but I'm not sure he's going to be able to do too much against all these infestors, which Ghost User has out at this point. So I think just a simple counterattack could clean up this aggression quite easily.
Yeah, also the 5 queens of Gosu user, one of the things that you often forget as a Zerg player is that these queens can heal. Each of them can heal about 375 hit points. So those infestors, even if they do get focused down, are going to be very difficult to take down, as the siege tanks are simply going to try to siege up. The Zerg is trying to swarm in. Infestors not going to be able to get off any fungal growth. The Marines are trying to push back there, but one bad fungal growth could make for a very bad day for Murder. In come the Marines once again. Zerglings continuing to swarm. Fungal growth not hitting their target, but just an infestor Zergling counterattack, and Gosu user finally getting off 1 good fungal growth, and this is not good for Murder at all.
Yeah, Murder just has the 1 bunker here and a few lone Marines. He's not even completely walled off, so 1 more round of Lings, and I think that Ghost User could definitely take down the natural of Murder. At this point, though, he's just going to be going into this 3rd, going to be denying that, possibly forcing a liftoff. We'll see whether he throws any infested Terran. Now he's going to allow that command center to basically go home and repair, and I think he's just buying time here for his tier 3, as he has finished his hive. He's got an Ultraless Cavern on the way, so we will have Ultras out shortly. He's also taken the gold base in the center, so he's wrestled back map control from the Terran player and is in firm control of the game.
Yeah, definite firm control. That gold in the center is going to be absolutely clutch. We'll see whether or not Gosu user continues to go for, say, even more drones right now. He's sitting at a very comfortable 64, but that's not a number that you want to stop at as Zerg. I only said 60 for the mid game, but towards the end game, you really want to be able to get into that 80 drone for a while, get a lot of money in the bank, and then if you feel the need to free up some supply, drones make perfectly good spine crawlers and then are, very useful as well. You can see an SCV from Murder looking for a possible 4th base, doesn't see that there is one already being built and nearing completion at the center location here, as Murder once again tries to re-establish his own 3rd.
Yeah, Murder does not know about the hive, does not know about the Ultraless Cavern. We do have the upgrades going for Ultraless as well, so they're going to be coming out with a lot of armor. We do have level 3 Carapace on the way for Ghost User as well, so those Ultras are going to be very good against the Marines and tanks that Murder does have. Murder, I'm not sure whether he's transitioning into Ghosts or any other sort of tech at this point. He does have up a starport, so he's coming out with a few medevacs, but at this point, very vulnerable to any sort of attack Ghost User uses.
Yeah, I think the real telltale sign is just going to take a look at the spending. Currently, Gosu user has about the same amount of resources in the bank, but on economy, technology, and army, he has just spent so much more. The macro of Zerg, when you give him, it's just a free license to drone, so powerful, as those Zerglings are 2-2 and will soon be 3-3, as you mentioned, and it looks like Banelings are in the not-so-distant future, as we are now morphing in 31 banelings.
Yeah, 31, that can do a decent amount of damage, I suppose. But what Ghost User is going to want to do is take those ultras, put them at the head of the class, at the vanguard there, and go in, try to absorb the shots from those siege tanks. And if any of those 31 banelings are able to make contact with the Marines, it could spell quick destruction for our Terran player. We see another drop coming in here. Murder trying desperately to get any sort of damage here on the Zerg player, but he's just unable to do so. The drop being very ineffective, now being cleaned up by these infestors and the infested Terran. And Murder sitting at 133, Ghost User at 199. He's got his tier 3 up and running, perhaps waiting for his 3-3 to finish. We're just about 20 game or maybe 30 game seconds away from that happening. And Murder actually walling off here with supply depots. I like that move from him.
Yeah, right now Murder knows that he needs to do something drastic, and he almost has to hope that Gosu User overexposes himself right now. It's not that there's really not much that Murder can do. Murder needs to play calculatingly defensive. He needs to be able to take a little bit more territory, take a little bit more land, get additional minerals, but at the same time force Ghost User to attack him when he's in a very, very fortified position. You can see Ghost are being added as well, but Murder is just in serious trouble. We'll see what he's going to be doing here in just a few moments. Missile turrets, no upgrades on the siege tanks, finally getting the second engineering bay and the armory for 2 upgrades, but he's already going up against fully upgraded Zerglings, Ultralists, Banelings, and yeah, this is just not good news at all.
And Ghost User made another round of Banelings, and a round is about 35, as now he's sitting on 67 Banelings with those 3-3 upgrades. As you mentioned, he's added spine crawlers to all of his bases, so he's going to be very good against drops. We see another drop coming in the eastern position here, but that's going to be dealt with, at least delayed, by these spine crawlers. And Ghost User actually being a little bit slow to respond to this, hasn't moved any of his army. And Murder doing quite a bit of damage here to the drones and to the spine crawlers in this third. I think Ghost User maybe now finally responding. Will be able to clean this up with his army. Does get a fungal off on those medevacs, so they will not be able to go home and tell their tale. But they were able to take down quite a few drones there, do a decent amount of damage. And Murder, if he's going to come back in this one, has to do a lot more of that.
Yeah, but the only problem was that Murder sacrificed his own 9 o'clock expansion to a Baneling drop, now being forced to rebuild that command center, rebuild the refinery. He did take down a lot of Overlords and Banelings, but this is not looking good. Murder now trying to push his way in. You can see a lot of Spine Crawlers in a very forward position. Are the Ultralists going to be able to get in? There's the fungal growth. EMP Shockwave hitting a couple of the Infestors, but the Banelings now simply rolling over and finishing off all of the Marines. There are 2 siege tanks. They're Neuroparasite. As soon as those drivers realize what's happening, they're going to be dead.
Oh, that was sick. Oh, boy. Murder was on that ramp, and he was basically so susceptible to that fungal growth with all of his units, his ghosts, his Marines, even his tanks so tightly packed there. Finally gives the GG after that failed push and losing his third. But a very commanding and convincing win by Ghost User right off the start.
Yeah, that was a very, very nice play by Gosu User. I gotta admit, if you just take a look at the resource collection rate, just throughout the game, you could see that Gosu User was just constantly ahead, able to mine more, and the difference over time was just almost astronomical. Full upgrades. Even if you take a look at the army value tab, you gotta remember that somewhere around the 12-minute mark or 14-minute mark, Gosu User had 3-3 upgrades on his Lings, Banelings. Ultralists were like 5-3 upgrades against 1-1 upgraded Marines.